the Zeiss 12mm f2.8 lens. I tested this lens for the last couple of weeks and here's my review. Hello and welcome back here to another video on my channel. At my channel you find different E-mount lens reviews just like this today with the Zeiss 12mm f2.8. So consider subscribing if you are interested. But at first I have to tell you that I got this lens for free for testing it out from Zeiss, but I have to send it back so you could be sure that I'm honest with you in my review. But now let's take a look how it comes packaged. And yeah, the box is really huge. If I remember the boxes of the 12mm from Samyang/Rokinon, for example, it was half the size. So it's really big. And so I would think we put away the first box. And yeah, there's another box. And if we open this box up, we have the lens itself. And that's why it is so huge, because the package is really nice. Such a nice presentation of the lens I never saw before, and yeah, I like it. You have some paperwork normally at the end here. Here it's empty because it's a rental lens. And yeah, at first the lens hood made out of plastic, but it's okay. And here the lens itself. The lens feels very well, and it felt like it's worth the 800 bucks it's cost. And yeah, it's built fully out of metal, so it's nice and heavy, also compared to its small size. And yeah, it looks nice, it feels nice, and I like it. I like the design of the lens, I like how it feels, and yeah, like I said, all out of metal. Only the ring for the focus is made out some rubber material, which is nice, and you have a nice grip, so it's nice. On the end you have a mount out of metal and you have electronic connections, because this is an autofocus lens. So you have autofocus with this lens and you have to change the aperture in the camera. But there is no optical steady shot inside this lens, and this lens is also not weather sealed, which is no problem because the APS-C size cameras of Sony aren't weather sealed anyway. So this is not a problem, and I really like the first impression of the lens. If you use a manual focus on this lens, you have to turn the ring. This ring is fly-by-wire, so you haven't any scale or something like that. But it's nice built, and it's nice to focus with this lens. The only backdraw is it's a bit too smooth in my opinion, but only a tiny bit. So this is up to the user. And in my opinion, it is a bit too smooth. In the opinion of another one, maybe it is too stiff. The only thing which is a small backdrop is the fact that the focus point, if you turn the dial, wiggles a little bit on the screen. It has no impact on the focus or on the image itself. It only looked a bit weird, and yeah, it's a tiny bit harder to focus, but it's no real issue. So yeah, you have to know it, you have to consider it, but it's not a big problem. The autofocus works really nice and it's fast. Not as fast as a Sony lens, but this is normal for a third-party lens. Yeah, but it's fast enough and it hits the subject most of the times. The only negative aspect there is that the autofocus is quite loud, which I find a little bit annoying if you want to use the camera or the lens, maybe for vlogging and have your mic directly on top of the lens. You maybe will hear the autofocus motor, which isn't as nice as it could be. But in most of the cases you don't will notice this, and I think this lens is a landscape lens, so you maybe will never use the autofocus reel. So it's not a big issue, but you have to know it. The lens is well balanced and feel very well if you attach the camera, and so the working all in all is very well with this lens. But now to the most important part of the review, the image quality. So I want to show you some sample pictures I took with this lens in the last couple of weeks. thoughts about this lens? Is it good? Is it not good? Let me know down in the comments. In my opinion, the sharpness is good of this lens. Especially in the center, it's quite sharp, and what's more important, around the edges, it don't loses the sharpness at all. So it's really, really nice. Also, if I expected a bit more sharpness in the center of a Zeiss lens. Maybe it's up to me because I use manual focus most of the time, but I think, yeah, it's okay. It's sharp, no question about that. But I expected it to be a bit more sharper, a tiny bit more crispy, but it is what it is. And yeah, if you stop down to about f8, you get the best out of the lens. But if you stop down further away than 11, then you will lose image quality and it gets a bit worse. Also, if you use a lens wide open at f2.8, it isn't the sharpest, but in most of the times you will use it stop down to f4, f5.6, f8, for example. So this is not a real issue. Another big good aspect of the lens is that you nearly have no problems with chromatic aberrations, lens flares, something like that. This lens is built very, very well. So in this case, it is worth the 800 bucks. And yeah, it is really, really good. And the barrel distortion is like you would expect. It is a 12mm, so there is barrel distortion, but it is okay. The Sunstar look very, very nice, and the bokeh is as creamy as it could be at f2.8 with a 12mm lens, but it is okay. So all in all, the picture quality is good. I'm not blown away, but it is good, and I think it is worth the $800. But what is my conclusion about the lens? The build quality is, well, very well. It feels nice, it looks nice, and you feel that you have a lens in the hands which is worth 800 bucks. The working with this lens is well also, so no backdrops there. The image quality, like I said, I expected it to be a tiny bit sharper, tiny bit better, but it is okay. It's not bad at all. And yeah, I would say, okay, if you have the $800, if you need autofocus, you could get this lens. In other cases, if you say, okay, I don't need the autofocus, maybe you consider the 12mm from Samyang/Rokinon. Yeah, it is nearly as sharp as this lens in the center. To the edges, Zeiss wins, but yeah, maybe it is enough. And you have a maximum aperture of 2.0 with the Samyang. Here you have only 2.8. If you search for another lens with autofocus for APS-C size cameras, you maybe consider the 10 to 18. I never had this lens in my hands, so I couldn't tell you is it better or worse than this lens. But this lens is an f4 lens only, so here you have f2.8. Maybe you don't use it at f2.8, but you have it. Maybe you want to photograph some stars, then f2.8 is much better than f4. But if you need the sharpness until the edges, if you need that there are no chromatic aberrations or very low lens flares and something like that, then you could buy this lens and you will be happy. So this was my review. What are your thoughts about this lens? Let me know down in the comments, and then hit thumbs up if you like this video. Don't forget to subscribe that you don't miss the next video. And yeah, then see you next time.